All right then. Well, I thought today we would do butterfly arms. So let's start in standing.
Oh, good. Before I got down there, thank you.
Yeah, good. Yeah, let's start in standing. And just take a moment to notice your weight over your feet and how you balance your torso over your legs and your shoulders over your hips, and how your head balances on top. So the legs and the pelvis and the torso and the shoulders and the head, it's all about balancing, right? Sort of stacking. And then the arms and the shoulders, they're hanging from the skeleton. They hang. The arms are hanging. So where do your arms hang? Do they hang to the sides? Do they hang more in front of you? Does one hand face a little different direction than the other if you're just relaxed with your arms hanging? Is one hand more organized to give or to receive? And then if you were to just slowly turn to your right, to look to your right and sensing how you do that. Where does your weight go? What's the comfortable range? What is the initiator of the movement? What is it that initiates the turning of the head? And then what else follows? What goes for a ride? And then to the other side, and looking right away, what's different about turning and looking to the left? So for some of you, maybe it just might be your head that turns. It might be just your head that turns. For others, your shoulders might follow. For others, your weight might shift and you might turn your torso. So just listen to what happens for you, just spontaneously, naturally, because of course you could make all those things happen. But let's just see what is your default setting. And then come to lie on your back. And just notice the rise and fall of your breath. The contact of your legs. The contact of your pelvis. Is there a gap at the back of your waist? And do you experience that gap the same on the right as you do on the left, or is there a difference there? And what about the weight on which your shoulders and your torso and the mass of your back, the rib area, rests on the floor? Is there a difference in your experience of the right side compared to the left? How have you placed your arms? Are they down by your sides? If they're down by your sides, is one arm closer to you than the other? And how is it that you can tell that without looking? Is one shoulder seem to be closer to the ceiling than the other? Or the other side of the question, is one shoulder more on the floor than the other? Is your head rolled A little more to the right, a little more to the left, or is it right in the middle? And then if you were to roll your head, actually roll your head a bit from right to left, left to right, just in your comfortable range. How do you experience the two sides? Are they the same? Is one different? And then if you were to rest the head and just pull one shoulder a little closer to the ceiling, which one would you choose? Is it the one that's already closer to the ceiling or the other one? And just feel that movement a few times, bringing the shoulder forward towards the ceiling. And notice, does it go in a straight line, or is there something of a curve that happens in that action? And then a few times with your other shoulder. How is it different? Which shoulder is more willing to move towards the ceiling? And does the shoulder actually go towards the ceiling, or does it go more towards your chest? Does it go straight up, or does it curve? And in what trajectory does it curve? Does it curve forwards, or does it curve forwards and outwards, or forwards and inwards? Forwards and downwards? Play around with that. And then can you interlace your fingers and bring them to rest on your belly? So where did you place them? Are they on your belly? Are they on your ribs? It's wherever is comfortable. And maybe your elbows are resting on the floor, maybe they're not, but your hands are clasped so that the elbows can either hang or they can rest on the floor. And then can you stand your feet? Stand your feet a comfortable distance apart. Feel what that changed. And then just very leisurely, very easily, very comfortably, can you simply lift your left elbow a little away from the floor? And do that many times, but slowly, so you're listening to, okay, the hands are, we've taken care of the hands, they're resting on the belly. The elbow can lift. It doesn't have to lift far, but again, does the elbow lift straight up towards the ceiling, or is there something of an arc? And does anything happen in the shoulder? Does anything happen in the shoulder as you lift the elbow away from the floor a bit? And what might happen in your chest? Anything happen in your chest? As the elbow gets lighter, what parts of you get heavier, get more clearly imprinted onto the floor behind you? And now if you were to use somehow your contact with the floor behind you to help you lift your elbow, what would you do? If somehow the tissues of your back change their relationship with the floor and grabbed hold of it and pressed it, would your elbow lift easier? Does your shoulder move as well? Pause with that. And now begin exploring your other side. your right elbow. So just the beginning of the movement, just the barest fluttering of one wing. Does the shoulder move? Is there any, what happens with the bone of the upper arm? Does it get longer and come away from your head, or does it grow shorter and the shoulder pull up towards your ear? You can try those things. And then what if you were to roll your head away from that elbow as you lifted it? What might that change? If you were to lift your elbow and roll your head away from it like you're going downhill, and you're listening to the hands clasped on your belly, you're just resting there. And what if you were to push with one foot as you lifted the elbow? Which foot might you press with, and what difference would that make in your skeletal structure and how you move around with the elbow? You could push the opposite foot, you could push the same foot. And listen to, are your heels of your hands staying on your belly, or do they tend to lift off? What is your preference? And then unclasp and reclasp your hands in the non-habitual way, the other finger on top. All moved over a digit, and just explore lifting one elbow and then lifting the other. But can you link the movements with your breath so that the lifting and the lowering are done, they entrain with your inhalation or your exhalation? That's nice. And then could you lift both of your elbows at the same time? And do you do that when you're exhaling, or do you do that when you're inhaling? So entrain your movement of your wings with the rhythm of your breathing. And now could you reverse the way that your breath is linked to the movement? So if you were exhaling as you lifted the elbows, inhale, and then exhale as you set them down, as you let them rest. How do these two sides compare? And where is the place where the elbows are their widest? So there's a place where the elbows will be the widest, and then if you kept moving, they would start coming together, closer together in an arc, as though a rubber band was contracting between them. And how might you use the floor beneath you to support that movement of lifting the elbows oh so lightly? Did your breathing revert back to a different pattern? What's the most comfortable pattern for the breath with the movement? Do the heels of your hands come away from your belly, or do they stay? Let's take a little rest. So unclasp your hands and let your legs go long. Roll your head from side to side and see if anything there has changed. Okay, good. Bring your feet to standing again and clasp your hands on your belly again in that comfortable place. And begin to lift your left elbow again, but consciously keep the heel of your hand on your abdomen or on your chest or wherever it is that you're resting your arm, your hands. So that this requires bending the wrist backwards. Requires bending the wrist backwards. It doesn't have to be a lot of pressure through the hand, although you might think of pressing through the heel of the hand somehow. And listen to how that affects the elbow and how does it affect the shoulder. And is there any sense of lengthening? I think everyone was here last week except for Rich and Linda, you were traveling. But last week we did a bit of this movement similar, but there was the feeling of a lengthening through the bone of the upper arm as you lifted, that somehow lengthening and lifting were linked. So maybe you were already doing that, maybe you were aware of it, maybe you were not, maybe you weren't doing that. But what difference does that make if that's a new feeling for you? Think of the elbow just getting a little longer and then lightening. And what is the relationship of the bones of the forearm to the hand and the wrist? If you leave the hand down on the belly, or if you allowed it to lift as part of the forearm, you can make that comparison. How does changing what you do with the wrist affect the shoulder, affect the neck? And do the same with the other side. So lift the elbow, and right away you can think, did you lengthen it? Did you lengthen the elbow away? And what does that do? If you lengthen the elbow away and sort of think of scooping, like you're scooping underneath something with the elbow, something very lightly. How does that affect the shoulder, the breathing? What changes if you leave the heel of the hand on your abdomen? At what angle does the wrist need to flex and bend to accommodate that constraint? So the heel of the hand, and some people can't, it's difficult to figure out how to leave the heel of the hand on the belly. One side might be more willing than the other. You can always check with the other side to see what does that side know that might be better that I could apply to this other side. And continue your explorations, but clasp your hands in the non-habitual way. Are you still linking the movement to your breath? Because there's no rush here. The next time you lift an elbow, roll your head away from it. And I'll add the constraint of keep the heel of your hand on your belly. So keep the palm on your belly so that the wrist is asked to flex backwards. Is that even possible? Just mold the heel of your hand to your body. And then let the head roll towards the elbow as the elbow comes away from the floor. Does the shoulder come closer to the ear? Does it go further away? You could play with that, bringing the shoulder closer to the ear as you lift the elbow. Or sinking the shoulder down towards the elbow and elongating that bone as you turn the head and lift the elbow. And then play with the other side. Play with the other side. So you're turning your head towards the elbow as you lift the elbow so that the movements are linked. As you lift the elbow, as you breathe either in or out, the heel of the hand stays on the body. The wrist is being asked to flex backwards. Play with bringing the shoulder towards the face or away from the face. Lengthening the bone. But you probably can't lengthen the bone and bring the shoulder up towards the face. So having a longer elbow, a longer arm would mean you have a longer neck. And let's leave it and take a rest. Stand your feet again. And this time place your hands behind your waist. Just slide, you find a place where you can slide your fingertips behind your waist. And from here, could you lift the left elbow towards the ceiling? So we have quite a constraint here. And the wrist, the front of the hand can stay on the floor, can stay down. Play with lifting it, lifting the hand. Well, now you really can't lift the hand because you're lying on it. So can you think of pressing the hand into the floor as you lift the elbow? And now could you lengthen down your right leg? Lengthen down your right leg. Leave your left foot standing. And just very leisurely fashion, roll your pelvis from right back to the center. So roll your pelvis a bit away from that arm. And listen to what your head may or may not want to do, or what your head does or does not do. Or not doing is doing something, right? And let your head, the back of your head, turn away from the elbow, from that foot, as you push the foot a bit and roll the pelvis. So the back of the head, the back of the pelvis move together. And notice if your knee wants to lean towards your midline, and can you stabilize it? You balance a glass of water, an imaginary glass of water on the end of your knee there. What does that change? And play with the head. Roll it the opposite direction. Not as far as you can. Just listen to the relationships of the neck, the mid-back, the pelvis, the hip joint. Can they turn together, the pelvis and the head? Whichever way you're playing with turning the head, can they move together, and can they come back at the same time? At the same time. And then let's pull the hands out and take a rest. Bring your hands behind your waist again and stand up your feet. And lift the other elbow. Which elbow is it now? It'll be the right elbow. Leaving your palm contacting the floor. So, lift the elbow, set it down. Does the shoulder, try just lifting the shoulder. Just bring the shoulder forward and listen to the pathway of it. So it sort of curves around the ribs and curves forward, and does it go towards the chest? And then try lifting the shoulder and the elbow together. Shoulder and the elbow together, away from the floor. What's happening in the chest? Lengthen down your left leg. Lengthen down your left leg. And play with turning the pelvis away from the elbow. Keep the heel of the hand on the floor. It'll be it's a constraint. It's a constraint. Is it even possible? What if you were to lift the elbow and the shoulder as you rolled the pelvis? Which way is the head tending to go towards? Could you do the opposite? Or have the head do nothing and stay where it is? Let's give it a rest. Check in with your neck. And then roll to your side and come to sit. And come to sit with your feet standing somehow on the floor. Maybe kind of wide. And if it's difficult for you to sit up like this, you can always lean against a doorway or a wall. So your feet are standing on the floor, the legs are apart, and clasp your hands and bring them somewhere on your belly. And keeping your hands molded to your belly, your feet are standing, so your knees are bent. Can you find a way, if you wanted to bring your right elbow around the leg and to the inside of the right knee, how would you do that? You wanted to bring it around and bring it forward and sort of slip it in that place next to the knee. And do that a few times. And notice how you make that maneuver. How do you get the elbow? Now, here's the constraint. The hands, the palms of the hands stay on the belly. So if you pulled it away, well, no, let's pull it away. Let's bring the hand away. It's still linked. You're still linked, but you can pull the hand away. So much easier, right? So much easier. But now if you attach the heels of the hands to the belly, what do you have to do differently with yourself to bring the elbow? Now, it doesn't have to go there if it's like, oh God, no, you don't have to do that. And you don't have to stay weighted on both sits bones. Hint, hint. You don't have to. One sits bone could come away from the floor and you could roll towards your cat. The heels of the hands stay attached to the belly. They're molded there. You can always spread your feet wider if that's possible. That's allowed. Anything is allowed and encouraged. Now bring the other elbow into the forward of the other knee. How does this side behave? Let the heel of the hand come away from the belly, and then impose the constraint of it is stuck there. The heels of both hands are stuck to your belly. What do you need to do with your weight or your chest or your collarbones? How do you push the wall if you're leaning against the wall? You might even roll all the way over onto your right side. We could turn the lesson into a rolling lesson, but not today. Interlace your fingers non-habitually and see if that makes a difference with the right side or the left. Change anything in the shoulder. Could you bring both elbows forward and to the inside of the knees? Remember, it's not a destination, it's a journey, and no is a valid answer. But how wide do you need to get? What do you need to do in the front to bring the elbows closer together, to navigate? What do you need to do in the back? What happens in your sits bones and your spine? What if you looked down at the floor rather than forwards? Let's take a rest on the back. So if any of these movements are difficult or challenging, be really gentle on yourself. Just do what you can do. The constraints are there to encourage the nervous system, encourage the brain to find another way around, to find a non-habitual pathway. It's like intentionally having a stroke, right? and you suddenly can't move this part of you, but you still want to perform a function. How do you get around that constraint? It's a different pathway, not just in the body, in the brain. How are you fitting on the floor? Is the shoulder that might have been closer to the ceiling, is it closer still to the ceiling, or did it drop a bit? If you roll your head, has the quality of that action changed at all for you? And stand up your feet again and slip your fingers behind your waist. Slip your fingers behind your waist. And lengthen down your left leg. Lengthen down your left leg. And push with your right foot and roll your pelvis towards the left. Balancing that glass of water. Balancing that glass of water on the end of your knee there. And let your head turn with the pelvis and come back with the pelvis. And now as you do that, could you lift your left elbow away from the floor? Just a tiny bit. Let's make it possible. So, take your right hand, and the next time you push bring it out from behind your back. Take it out and reach over towards your left elbow as you push with your foot and roll the pelvis and turn the head to look to the left. And then come back. So you're reaching in the direction of your left elbow, which is on the floor, which now stays on the floor. It might even want to slide away from you. You could try that out. Stay comfortable. And could you take hold somehow of your elbow with your right fingertips? So turn your head to look to the left and reach and take hold of, or maybe just grab your shirt sleeve. That's good too. And then keep hold of yourself, your shirt sleeve or your elbow, as you roll the pelvis and the head back onto the ground. Lift the left elbow. And it comes rocking like a rocker on a runner on a rocking horse. It comes away from the floor as you replace the pelvis and the head back down on the floor. So as you roll back onto your back, your left elbow comes effortlessly away from the floor. It's going for a ride. You're not even engaging with the muscles there because you're holding it and pulling it with your right hand. So the back of the hand now is going to stay attached to the back. And the elbow comes away, just going for a ride as you come back onto your back. How do you use the floor? Now, could you do that and turn your head towards the shoulder that's coming forward? And bring the head and the pelvis back onto the floor together. So you turn the head away from the elbow. Does that help? Does it hinder? Does it make it easier for you to reach your arm around to take hold of your elbow or your shirt if you turn your head away? And then what if you were to just roll, however you can, just roll onto your left side and fold into your left arm. Fold into your left arm. How far would you go? Just folding into your left arm. You're rolling around your arm. And come back. And let's take a rest. How many of you found that last direction to be difficult? Aha. So let's try something a little different. Stand up your right foot again. Slip your left hand behind your waist. Reach around to grab your left elbow, but let it slide out of the way. Let it slide away from you. So let it slide along the floor as you turn towards it. Let it slide along the floor and lengthen away from you. Lengthen away from you as you turn towards that side. The hand stays behind the back. It's the elbow sliding on the floor. It has to slide down away from you on the floor. There you go. Rich found it. Sheila found it. Pete has it. And pay attention to places that are not, yeah. Don't do anything. Do not force anything. This is how we get into trouble. Leave it all and take a rest. Slip your other hand behind your waist, your right hand. Stand up your left foot. And just play with rolling your pelvis and turning your head. Rolling your pelvis and turning your head to the right. When might your elbow slide away from you? Or does it? Imagine your imaginary friend that we often use in these lessons had hold of your elbow and was pulling it already in the direction that it's angled down towards. So that there's room for you to roll towards it. You can slide on the floor. And now could you reach with your left arm and take hold of that elbow or your shirt or your skin. And as you bring your pelvis and head back onto the floor, bring your right elbow away from the floor. So you're linked there. You're a closed loop with your elbow and your left hand. And you're just rocking back and forth to the right and back onto the back. And as you come back onto the back, the right elbow, without any steam of its own, you're holding it. It's being lifted by your left side, the whole left side. The pelvis is pulling the right elbow away from the floor, linked as it is through your left hand. Let's take a rest. come to sit again with your feet standing and your hands interlaced and molded around your belly or your chest. And just see how that feels now. And stand your feet, because we're going to see how it is to move and bring the right elbow around and towards the inside of the right knee. Is that more doable? I see that you're not leaning against your fireplace anymore. That's good. Something changed. Try the left side, keeping the hands molded around your round little belly. You can alternate. You can shift weight on the pelvis. You could bring one sits bone. Oh, that's nice. That's nice, Sidi. You could bring one sits bone away from the floor as though you were about to topple over. Are you looking towards the elbow? What if you looked away? Is it easier, less easy? What if you looked down and brought both elbows forward? Both elbows forward to the inside. The feet are standing, not the soles of the feet together. The feet are standing, the legs are parallel. There you go. They don't have to be exactly. The soles of the feet are on the floor. Soles of the feet are on the floor. That's fine. You're fine. You're fine.
I can't stay like this. If I lean forward, they're going to go like this.
That's fine. That's fine. That's fine. Just keep your soles of the feet on the floor.
Well, then I can't go there.
Do what you can. Do what you can.
Because my hip flexors are killing me.
Try one, try the other, then try both. Try one, try the other, then try both. And then open the knees. Then open the knees. Let them open. But the feet are on the floor.
Sides.
The feet are standing. The feet are standing. They can be open, but standing. There you go. There you go. That's the way. That is on the way. So feel how far you go. So if y'all need to rest, I'm going to work with Jeannie a bit. So yeah. So let your feet go away from you. Don't try to pull them and keep them. You were leaning before against something. Maybe you need to do that again.
Yeah, I was leaning back against the wall.
Maybe you need that training wheel for a while. Just like you might.
The hip, it's here. It's tight. I cannot go forward.
I hear you. I hear you. So let the legs go. Let the legs go straight. There you go. Now bring your right elbow towards the inside of your right knee. There you go. See how now? Notice how you bent your leg a little bit.
Yes.
So maybe that much of a bend. There you go. Now try that. Ah, okay. Now do it on the other side. Now this gets into a completely different lesson that's very similar to what you're doing right now. So that's doable, right? That's, huh?
But still painful.
Well, don't do it. If it's painful, where is it painful?
Right there, right in here. It's the hip flexors. They're so tight.
So they're a little unwilling to, so just do the very bare minimum, the very beginning of the movement. That's it. And then come back. And then do it again. There you go. Now, notice if there's any shift of weight that might be possible to happen on your pelvis as you bring your right elbow forward. Mm-hmm. What if you were to, if you bring just the right elbow forward What if you pressed through the right heel and brought the right sits bone away from the floor? There you go. Do that a couple of times. Turn the leg, turn the toes of the right foot to the left. There you go. There you go. How's that? More doable?
It's somewhat better.
Somewhat better.
So very tight. It's so tight. I just want to do this. You know, it's so tight. I just keeping my legs out or up or any of those positions.
So just now you crossed your legs in a way that looked very easy.
Yeah, this is easy. This is simple. This feels fine. This is
Could
good.
you bring your right elbow to the inside of your right knee from there?
Sure.
Okay.
No problem. That's one.
So what's very interesting to me is that you're okay, I see what's happening. It's another lesson. Everybody lie down. Everybody lie down.
Right.
And we'll do it next week.
Good, because it's been a lifelong problem.
Yeah, it's not your hips. You'll be surprised. You'll be so surprised.
All right.
Yeah. No. Change your life in a weekend. Since you've all had another, I was concentrating on Jeannie's Hollywood Square, so I don't know what the rest of you were doing. Maybe you were resting. Maybe you were making phone calls. I'm not sure. But let's try a different variation. Bring your left hand on your belly and your right hand behind your head. And lift your head with the help of your right hand and lift your left elbow, keeping the heel of your hand on your belly. So you're bringing the elbows towards each other. But it's a strange configuration. You're turning, you're bending, and you're turning. You're bending and you're turning. So the elbows come towards each other, and the constraint is the heel of the hand of your left hand stays molded to your belly, which means yes. So you could do a Heimlich maneuver on yourself. Maybe you can think of it that way. Now think that you could tuck your head in the gap of your left elbow, just as a direction, because if you could do this, you're in the wrong line of work.
Make a lot more money as a contortionist.
Call the circus. Right now. So you're folding, the elbows come together, the heel of the hand stays on your belly. The elbows come, very, very nice folding. Some of you, very nice folding. But the heel of the hand, Rich, keep the heel of the hand down on your belly. There you go. Yeah. It requires something quite different in the shoulder itself. Now, is anybody thinking of their left elbow getting longer at any point? Longer and lifting?
Yeah, yes, it does.
Maybe.
What if you sort of intentionally encouraged your left elbow to get a little longer as you lifted it towards your right elbow? But keep your hand down, Stephanie. Bend the wrist backwards. There you go. Push your belly down into the ground with your left hand. Good. Take a rest. Now, could you do the same thing on the other side? Of course, it's not going to be the same thing because it's the other side, but could you change the arrangement? So your left hand will be helping your head lift. Your feet will be standing. Both feet will be standing. And you'll be turning. And the hand is not behind the back. I hadn't thought of that. Torture. Put the hand on the belly. And leaving the hand, the heel of the hand, the palm of the hand on the belly, bring your right elbow away from the floor. And bring your left elbow towards it. Oh, so interesting. So notice how your hand might want to sort of buckle away from your body, buckle away from your body. And could you do that intentionally? Since it's happening anyway, could you actually pull the front of your wrist away from your belly? Let it bend in the front. And then could you keep the elbow lined up with the wrist, lined up with the fingers in a straight line? Is that possible? And then could you think of maybe pressing with the heel of the hand into your belly or your ribs or your chest or wherever your hand is resting, and bringing your right elbow away from the floor and helping your head lift with your left, and bringing the elbows closer together, and maybe it's just a tiny bit. And is your shoulder, does it come up towards your face, or does the elbow lengthen away? What if you played with something of those versions and anything in between? What if you were to lengthen down your right leg and let your pelvis roll? What if you were to stand both feet and lift your head and keep your elbows as close together as they come? Keep that as a constant. And then find a way to rock like you're on a runner. The elbows stay lifted and the head lowers, and then the pelvis lifts as the head lowers, and the pelvis lifts as the head lowers, and the pelvis lowers as the head lifts, but you keep the elbows constant. So you stay constantly curled up. The head will never really reach the floor because you're folded up. It's like you froze in that position and then you rock. There you go. There you go. Rest as you need to and pick it up again when you're ready. So what sort of pathway do you take across the upper back? There we go. That's it, Rich. That's it. Okay, let's give it a rest. So notice how you're fitting on the floor. If you were to roll your head comfortably one side to the other, how is that action now? And then one last time, bend both your legs and interlace your fingers and place them on your belly. Now go very gently if you're on a hard surface, but can you lift your elbows towards each other, keeping the palms of your hands on your belly? Feel how that goes. Bring the elbows. Yes, good. And then could you drop them onto the floor, onto your mat? Just plop. And do that several times. You lift them and you plop. You lift them and you plop. Keep the heels of your hands, keep your palms on your belly. Plop. Try just the right. Try just the right. Plop. Keep the heel of the hand. Don't let the heel of the hand leave your warm little belly. Listen through the heel of your hand for internal gurglings. Try plopping the other side. Some of you already are. Just plop. A complete letting go. Gravity doesn't need any help. So don't throw them on the floor. And now could you drum, alternating, keeping the heels of your hands on your floor, on your abdomen. And now could you, like a little hummingbird, very small movement, very elbows, together, like you're a hummingbird. They both come away, they both drop up, and then leave it. Is one shoulder still closer to the ceiling, or did that change? Roll to your side and come up to sit. And come up to stand. Don't get stuck in sitting. Come up to stand. And now think of this, the head resting balanced on the top of the skeleton. And how do your arms hang now? How do they hang from the shoulders? Hang from the shoulder girdle. Where's your weight on your feet? And if you turn to look to the right or turn to look to the left, what is the feeling there?